We got some major updates on the head coaching search, and Titans fans should be very excited. I'll go over all the latest on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. We got major updates on the Tennessee Titans coaching search, along with some terrible rumors about the coaching search as well. And finally, I'm going to give you guys a Roland's rant on all of the conversation around Will Levis right now. Before I get into it, thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But with that being said, throw a thumbs up on the video, hit that subscribe button. I'm so close to 10,000 subscribers. A lot of you guys get my videos in your feed but aren't actually subscribed. I would appreciate it. The show's always free all year round. Just click a couple buttons for me, all right? With that being said, though, do want to dive into the recent news that we got on Wednesday, and we finally have a head coaching candidate who got a second interview with the Tennessee Titans. He is moving on to the second round, and that candidate is Brian Callahan from the Cincinnati Bengals. He is currently the offensive coordinator for the Bengals. We talked about my head coaching tiers earlier in the week, and shout out to my everydayers out there who know what the conversation was when we talked about it earlier. And Brian Callahan was at the very top of my second tier. Now, it's no secret that Bobby Slowick is my number one guy. Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions is my number two. But my number three, and still a very, very good choice, is Brian Callahan from the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, the number one thing about Brian Callahan that stands out to me is his ability to create a great coaching staff. All right, when you look at some of the failures of Mike Vrabel, it's funny, some people still get in my comments and tell me that I said Mike Vrabel was a bad coach. I've never said Mike Vrabel was a bad coach, and my everydayers out there can vouch for me. I've said Mike Vrabel was a good coach, but not the right coach for this team. And one of the big downfalls with Mike Vrabel is his inability to put together a proper coaching staff after he lost Dean Pease, after he lost Arthur Smith, okay? And Matt LaFleur, four-started by John Robinson. Arthur Smith was a holdover from other coaching staffs. Mike Vrabel went and got his buddies to be his coordinators, and that was ultimately his downfall. Callahan is the exact opposite of that. So, think about it. Where does this team need help the most? On the offensive line. Who is Brian Callahan's dad? Bill Callahan, currently the offensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns, one of the most renowned and respected offensive line coaches and a former head coach himself in the NFL. So you have to think that along with Brian Callahan coming over as an offensive-minded head coach, that he would be able to put together a fantastic staff, starting with his father as the offensive line coach. Also, some options. You look at Liam Cohen, who is the offensive coordinator and play caller for the Kentucky Wildcats with Will Levis in 2021. Cohen is trying to get back into the NFL. He used to coach with the Los Angeles Rams under Sean McVay. So if Brian Callahan were to come over, you could make Liam Cohen your offensive coordinator, your quarterback coach, and your play caller. That would make a ton of sense for Brian Callahan if he doesn't want to call plays himself. If he does want to call plays himself, that's perfectly fine. You also look at another guy like Thomas Brown, who the Titans just requested an interview with. Thomas Brown was the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. And look, I know the instant pushback is Carolina did not have a good season. But Thomas Brown is respected as one of the best young offensive minds in the NFL, and another guy who worked with Sean McVay directly in Los Angeles for quite some time. So you could bring in one of those guys. You could bring in both of those guys to go along with Bill Callahan as your offensive line coach. And here's a wrinkle. So Bill Callahan signed a contract extension with the Cleveland Browns before the 2022 season. And some people are worried or have expressed concern, including myself, that, hey, maybe the Browns wouldn't let Bill Callahan get out of his contract to come coach with his son. So what is a way the Titans could do it? Well, all the Titans would have to do is make Bill Callahan the assistant head coach or the associate head coach under his son Brian, and that is a promotion that would prevent the Browns from blocking Callahan leaving. And on Wednesday, the Browns fired a bunch of their offensive assistants, so they may be looking to make some changes anyway. But either way, if you get Bill Callahan in here as the offensive line coach to help this offensive line, you go out and you get a Liam Cohen to pair with Will Levis once again. You get a Thomas Brown to pair with them once again. And then you have Bill Callahan put together the rest of the staff. I mean, you're absolutely cooking. And that's why Brian Callahan was one of my top candidates for the Titans. And to hear that now he is getting a second interview and moving to the next stage while there are other people who haven't even done their first virtual interview yet, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic news for Titans fans. Now, I will say, the one pushback that people are going to have here is, well, Brian Callahan didn't call plays. Okay, that's right. He didn't. But I would also point out Zach Taylor, Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, these people did not call plays before they got hired as head coaches and started calling plays. So you can't have experience until you have experience. So I would not worry. And another thing, shout out to Terry McCormick. Terry pointed out from his information in Cincinnati that Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan would quiz each other on play calls, on schematics, on their game plan for the week. They were attached at the hip. So to think that Brian Callahan doesn't have play calling experience and that would make him a bad head coach, it's just silly. We have enough examples in front of us that is not a precursor to a bad head coach. And again, with being connected to Zach Taylor for so long, he is clearly in the mind of a play caller and clearly has thought as a play caller himself. So you want to talk about the ability to put together a good coaching staff. You want to talk about the ability to fix the offensive line. You want to talk about the ability to have a good offensive mind that can call plays. You're going to get all of that in Brian Callahan. And let's just be honest. Certain things are just destiny. Certain things just feel good. Certain things just make sense. And for Bill Callahan to be a successful head coach but never reach the mountaintop, to join his son, and his son, for him and his dad together to take this team to the next level, that is what dreams are made of. That is what the NFL is all about. That is a storybook right there. And that is exactly what the Tennessee Titans need. So putting together a good staff, the opportunity to bring his father over to help the offensive line, the ability to call plays even without play calling experience technically, it's all there for Brian Callahan. So would I prefer Bobby Slowick? Would I prefer Ben Johnson? Yes. But again, I would be very, very, very happy and very excited if the Titans were to bring in Brian Callahan as their head coach. Now, that was the good news and actual news that we got on Wednesday, but there was a rumor and a prediction that sent everyone into a tizzy on Wednesday as well, and we're going to dive into that. Before we do, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking about the same thing. I'm getting ready to talk about it the rest of this show. We're getting insane rumors, nonsensical predictions about the Titans head coaching staff. Also getting just ridiculous things said about Will Levis. I'm going to dive into all of that on today's show, but they're things that just really, really annoy me, and they might be annoying you as well. But therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us, admittedly, are going to have bigger problems than our favorite sports team. But regardless, it's important to get those things off your chest every once in a while as well. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible. It's suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Titans fans, we just talked about Brian Callahan from the Cincinnati Bengals getting a second interview with the Tennessee Titans, why he is so qualified, why it's great news for the Titans. But now I got to shift gears here, all right, because there are some things that I've seen in the past 24, 48 hours that just are driving me insane, okay? Driving me insane. First, we're going to talk about some head coaching candidates, a prediction, a rumor, some things that have been going about on Wednesday. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to talk about these nonsensical things being said about Will Levis. But before I get into it, thank you guys again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. I'm going to encourage everybody to take a drink of water right now. Hydration break, folks. As I said on yesterday's show, I do have COVID. I am sick, so got to stay hydrated, and the voice kind of wants to give out here and there. But let's dive in here. So Dan Graziano was the guy who reported that the Titans are giving a second interview to Brian Callahan. But Dan Graziano also had something to say on Wednesday morning that maybe didn't get Titans fans as excited. Dan Graziano from ESPN said that his prediction for the next Tennessee Titans head coach was Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. All right. Graziano said, I have been told by a couple people close to the situation to keep an eye on Glenn as a strong candidate. All right, listen, folks. So I have said for the past week that you should not freak out when the Titans interview defensive coaches. You should not freak out when the Titans interview offensive coaches that maybe their teams underperformed, like a Thomas Brown, like a Brian Johnson, things of that nature. Okay? Like a Mike Kafka, for example. So, prefacing all of that with the fact that these could just be interviews, they could just be, touch base. What do you think of our roster? What would you do with our roster? How do you do things where you are intel, information gathering? While I have expressed that is why you should not freak out about these names too much, the second interviews are really where we start to get down to business. I have to tell you, this was terrible news to hear. This is a terrible rumor, a terrible prediction, and everyone was basically freaking out on Wednesday morning about the fact that the Titans may seriously be interested in Aaron Glenn. All right. Now, before I get into why it would be such a bad hire, let me back you off the ledge just a little bit. In the same article, Dan Graziano said that the Titans situation is the hardest to read, which means he has the least amount of information about the Titans situation. Also, the Titans have yet to even interview Aaron Glenn. They requested a virtual interview, and they haven't even interviewed him yet. They're moving Brian Callahan on to the second round, and they haven't even interviewed Aaron Glenn yet. So we don't need to freak out too bad considering all of that. I also would like to point out that Graziano's predictions a couple of years ago, the only one that he got right was Brian Daboll going to the New York Giants. So again, this is rumor. This is prediction from Dan Graziano that Aaron Glenn is a strong candidate for the Titans job. But let me take this opportunity to say that would be a disaster. And I would get on here and tell you how wrong that I was to trust this team if they hire Aaron Glenn. All right. I am not here to tell you that Aaron Glenn doesn't deserve an interview. I'm not here to say that. But number one, defensive head coach. The only defensive head coach that I would be okay with is Mike Macdonald. All right? Because he's 35 years old. He's been around the Harbaugh brothers, who have done a great job putting together the most talented coaching staffs they can, and shown that they care more about coaching talent than they do blind loyalty. So that's why Mike Macdonald is the only defensive coach I would be okay with. Aaron Glenn is older than Mike Vrabel. Aaron Glenn is not a schematic innovator like Mike Macdonald. He's a leader of men, rah-rah, CEO type guy who's respected by players. Why in the world would the Titans go from Mike Vrabel, who is a CEO type and a younger guy than Aaron Glenn, who had one bad statistic year on defense, to Aaron Glenn, who's 3 years older than Mike Vrabel is right now and has had 3 bad statistic years on his defense? Why would they do that? Why would they go? I feel like Brian Windhorst. Why would they do that? But why would the Titans fire Mike Vrabel and then hire a worse version of Mike Vrabel, older, with worse performance from his defensive units? Why would they do that? They wouldn't. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it. But you have my word. If the Titans do that, I will get on here and eviscerate them. And I will lose all hope in Rand Carthon and Amy Adams-Strunk if that's the decision that they make. You don't fire Mike Vrabel and then hire a worse version of Mike Vrabel, an older and less accomplished version. You don't. It doesn't make any sense. And likewise, Dan Quinn. I don't want anything to do with Dan Quinn. Absolutely not. A defensive coach, older than Aaron Glenn. He's 53. A retread coach. Now, you give Dan Quinn his flowers. He took the Falcons to a Super Bowl. That's great. But that was 8 years ago? 7 years ago? If the Titans hire, again, any defensive coach other than Mike Macdonald, I will be beside myself. So, if we see them get second interviews, Dan Quinn or Aaron Glenn, I mean, I am just going to be beside myself. There's no other way to put it. Like, it'll be absurd. If the Titans want to go with a defensive coach, again, you go with Mike Macdonald from the Baltimore Ravens. You go with Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator from the Carolina Panthers, who is a guy that makes sense and is 41 years old, younger. I mean, even Raheem Morris at 47 years old, the Rams defensive coordinator, would make more sense than Dan Quinn or Aaron Glenn. So while I am as excited as I can be about Brian Callahan and the news he's getting a second interview, I surely hope that Dan Graziano is completely wrong about this. And want to at least point out one thing. Agents and media people talk. So this could be hey, maybe Aaron Glenn isn't getting the traction behind the scenes that his agent is hoping for. So he's giving Dan Graziano this information to try to make him look like he's more in demand than he actually is. So that the inside game of how the media and agent relationships work absolutely could be at play here as well. But was very disturbed when I saw that. But again, it's just a rumor. It's just a report, just a prediction. And the Titans haven't even done their virtual interview with Aaron Glenn yet. So back off the ledge. But if they do make those decisions, I will be here with you to vent it out. But speaking of venting, I got a Rollins rant ahead for you guys because we are just hearing some insane nonsense about Will Levis and his future with the Titans. So I'm going to dive into that in just a moment. Before I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Excuse me. So, you're out there, you're a small business, it's the start of the year, and you're probably asking yourself a simple question. What is the one move that I can make that will take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team that you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board, okay? LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. Thankfully, LinkedIn has a process that is intuitive, it's quick, and it's easy. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Also want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. I have purchased a lot of different tickets on Game Time at this point. I love all their features. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, so you're not bamboozled by what your tickets actually cost. You get an accurate view from your seat, and you got their best price guarantee. The Game Time guarantee means that you will always get the best price on your tickets, because if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Again, I bought concert tickets. I bought basketball, football, baseball tickets on Game Time. They also have comedy. They have theater. Whatever you want, you're going to find it on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem the code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about all of the latest head coaching news, rumors, predictions, all that went on Wednesday. Now I want to transition into a Rollins rant, because there's something else that I've been hearing in the last 24 to 48 hours from outside sources, things, blah, 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 that really are just annoying the crap out of me. And there's a specific reason why this is happening. And I just want to point it out to you guys so that you can cut through the nonsense. Before I do that, though, I do want to let you guys know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Also, go check out Locked On NFL. I do the Thursday show of Locked On NFL, so you'd be supporting me as well. But with that being said, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am struggling. My voice is trying to give out, and I'm pushing through for you guys, just like Will Levis would do, okay, as your quarterback. So, excuse me, I mentioned it at the beginning of the show yesterday. There was a report. Not a report. It's nonsense is what it is, from someone who does not have sources and pretends to. But there was a quote-unquote report that came out early in the week that said that Amy Adams Strunk is preparing to sell the farm to move up and get Caleb Williams. Jesus. Oh, man. People believe this stuff, man. They eat it up. And not only that, there's a former NFL general manager who is now a general manager for the UFL or XFL, whatever they're going to call it now, who went on a local Nashville radio station and said that he doesn't know that the Titans do have their quarterback of the future. He's not sold on that. He doesn't know if the Titans are sold on that. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Absolute nonsense. Just absolute nonsense. All right. Did Will Levis light the world on fire his entire rookie season like CJ Stroud did or something? No, he didn't. We can all acknowledge that, right? Like, we can acknowledge that. But as I have said, my everydayers will remember, Will Levis showed flashes of brilliance with a bottom 3 offensive line, a bottom 10 group of pass catchers, not elite offensive coaching. We will say it. Tim Kelly's average, in my opinion. He's not terrible, but, I mean, the offensive line coach, Jason Houghtelling, was a disaster. So, Will Levis, without quality offensive line play, quality wide receiver play, quality coaching, still found a way to win the Titans some games that would not have been won otherwise. And again, showed flashes of brilliance. Will Levis has elite traits. 4 of them that I know for, 4 of them I know for sure. He's got elite arm strength. Will Levis already has one of the strongest arms in the entire NFL. No doubt about it. Cannon. All right. The numbers bear it out. You want to look at air yards, the longest air yard touchdown throws on the entire season. Levis has like 3 of the top 10. He only played half the year. All right. Elite release quickness. They compared Will Levis's release to Aaron Rodgers coming out in the draft. He gets the ball out of his hand incredibly fast. So those are 2. Again, sorry, guys. Those are 2 elite physical traits that he has as a thrower. Will Levis also has mobility to get out of the pocket. It's not elite, but it's absolutely there. And then you look at mental traits. Elite learner. Like all-American level knowledge, intelligence. Okay, the guy is a genius. 2, elite toughness. This dude is competitive. He is fiery. He will not back down. Will Levis has 4 elite traits that you have to have in a quarterback. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't usually cough like this, but trying to get through. So you take all of that, what we've seen from Will Levis so far, and then you add in what it would cost the Titans to move up and to trade and to get a different quarterback, and how much of a waste that would be of assets. This team desperately needs offensive line. This team desperately needs wide receiver. This team desperately needs secondary help. And you're going to trade the farm to move up and get another quarterback after you drafted Malik Willis with a 3rd, drafted Will Levis with a 2nd, and traded a 3rd to go get him? And you're telling me you're going to sell the farm to go get another quarterback at the top of the draft? And surround him with what? And with what draft picks? Like, it is entirely nonsensical to think that. Not only that, you look at what Will Levis has shown us. You look at what it would cost to do something stupid like that. And you look at Amy Adams-Strunk saying that we have a young, promising quarterback in all of her statements after Mike Vrabel was fired. How could anyone logically believe that the Titans are going to make a big play up for a quarterback? It would be stupid. The idea is stupid. All right. Now, let's ask this question. Again, why would they do that? Why would people come out and doubt Will Levis? Why would people come out and say that the Titans maybe need to go get another quarterback? Why would people do that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. If these people did not believe in Will Levis before he was drafted, and these people did not like Will Levis coming into the draft, they're not going to jump off their opinion that easily. They're going to hold firm, because admitting that the Tennessee Titans found their quarterback in the future would be them admitting that they were wrong about Will Levis. I was wrong about Will Levis. I've said it 1,000 times now on Twitter, on here. I was wrong. But most people in the media don't want to admit they're wrong. They don't ever want to concede that they got something wrong. So remember that over the next few months, when you hear people crap on Will Levis, doubt whether he's the Titans' future, make up rumors that the Titans would go up and get another quarterback, these people did not believe in Will Levis to start, and they're not jumping off that ship now. They're confirming their own biases, staying with their preconceived notions. All this is an inability to say, I was wrong, which, despite what some people say about me, I'm always going to do here on the show when I get things wrong. And I get things wrong all the time, which you talk for 2.5 hours a week and give football opinions, you're going to get things wrong. So it's all about having self-awareness, being mature, and being able to admit when maybe you didn't get something right. Every player in the draft every year, you're going to have an opinion on. You're not going to be right about all of them. So the people who are trying to say this stupid stuff about Will Levis not being the quarterback. They're just people who didn't believe in Will Levis to start with. And they're too stubborn to come off their position. So with that being said, before I die, all right, because I might soon, my gosh, I'm going to get out of here. That, my friends, is going to do it for today's show. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Mailbag. I'm doing a mailbag tomorrow. Get your questions in at TikTok Titans on Twitter. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland. And this was Locked On Titans.